Four girls attend an interview for a modeling job at a fashion show. The interviewer walks in, and as soon as he sees the first girl, he smiles in satisfaction at her beauty and moves on to analyze the next girl. As he beams in satisfaction, his smile suddenly fades away as soon as he sees the last girl. He immediately notices her shortness and ignores her to speak to the other beautiful girls. As he instructs them on how to carry out their job, Nan-hee, the short girl, interrupts to ask if she would be employed for the job. He contemplates for a moment and asks her to smile, but she's unable to smile naturally, which gives him a jump scare. At this moment, someone runs over to tell him that 3 laborers had been injured while working on setting up the fashion runway. This makes him worry about missing the deadline. As he contemplates what to do, he sees Nahi struggling to smile, so he gets an idea to employ her as a laborer. She accepts it, but complains about the difficulty of the job. So, he advises her to accept her reality and stop striving to become a model. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Sejin, a handsome but cocky playboy, breaks up with a member of a popular girl group band. After leaving her waiting room, he goes with his friend to attend the hottest fashion show happening in the town. Coincidentally, Nan-hee is also there. After working as a laborer for the show, she stays backstage to watch the models on the runway, but she soon gets sad and begins to complain about how unfair life is for her. As she stands to leave the backstage, she suddenly notices a shaky pillar and immediately spins into action by using her back to prevent it from falling. But as the weight of the pillar presses on her, Sejin comes out of nowhere to assist her in holding the pillar. She immediately recognizes him as her university classmate, but he fails to recognize her. As the weight continues to press on them, he switches position to prevent it from falling and ruining the show. But the new position brings them close to each other. As soon as the show ends, they let go of the pillar together and jump to safety, causing them to end up in a hug on the floor. She immediately thanks him for his help, but he reveals that he had helped her hold the pillar to prevent it from falling on his crush, who was a model. He ignores the bleeding wound on her hands and goes to check up on the model. Seeing this, she breaks down in tears at how the world was unfair to average-looking people. Nan-hee is an average-looking college student, often ignored by her colleagues. Each time her friend group goes for a drink, the boys crowd over the beautiful girls, causing her to be left alone. This damages her confidence, so she often spends countless hours on the computer editing photos of herself. One day, she angrily approaches her mother and requests money to do plastic surgery, but the mother rejects her request. So, in anger, she yells at the mother and accuses her of passing down ugly genes to her. It turns out that her ugly mother had married a handsome man, but ended up with average-looking children. As the mother walks away with her husband, she turns around to stare at her daughter and comments that it's time to pass on a ring to her. Meanwhile, Nan-hee continues to face rejection from part-time jobs due to her average-looking face. She even learns from her best friend that she had not been invited to their high school reunion. That day, as soon as she returns home, her mother drags her into a room and shows her a photo book with pictures of her ugly grandparents who somehow managed to marry handsome men. The mother shows her a ring and reveals that if a man puts it on her, she would become the most beautiful woman in the man's eyes. The mother hands over the rings to her and instructs her to return it before her husband gets back. So, the next day at school, Nan-hee decides to try the ring's power on Sejin. She invites him for a drink by lying that a beautiful classmate wanted to speak to him. Tempted by the offer, he accepts her invitation for a drink, so she gets him drunk and asks him to put the ring on her fingers. Confused by her request, he drunkenly accepts. As soon as he wears it on her, the world freezes, and she magically floats to the ceiling, surrounded by magical sparkling lights. After a while, she floats down to her seat, still looking the same as she was. But suddenly, her appearance changes in his eyes, and he begins to see her as the girl of his dreams. The next day at school, as he walks past her in the hallway, he becomes bewitched by her fake beauty and stops to ask for her name. That day, as soon as she returns home, she immediately hands over the ring to her mother before her father arrives. The next day at school, she sees a poster advertising a fashion competition. Anyone who wins gets a free trip to Paris. As she looks at the poster in envy, her best friend approaches her, so they get into a playful banter. Unknown to her, Sejin is watching her from afar. Since she's wearing the ring, He continues to see her as the girl of his dreams, so he asks a classmate for her phone number. Later that day, she receives a text from her mother, telling her to return the ring before her father returns from work. So, she decides to return home on time, but Sejin suddenly calls and asks her out on a date. This leaves her confused for a moment, but upon remembering that she needs to return the ring to her mother before her father returns home, she rejects his offer and tells him that she needs to go home. Annoyed at this, he meets up with her male best friend and confesses that he likes her. He warns the friend to stay away from her, since he plans to make her his girlfriend. Then, the next day, he waits for her in the school's hallway, and in the presence of everyone, he asks her to go on a date with him. She immediately accepts. He takes her shopping and asks her to try on a dress. Although she looks shabby wearing the gown, in his eyes, she's the most beautiful girl on earth. As they sit down for a drink, he asks about her major in school. He's shocked to learn they are in the same faculty, so he asks if she knows a short-looking but average girl who's also in the same faculty. Unknown to him, the average girl is actually Nanhee, but due to the effect of the magic ring, he can't see her real face. Since the magic ring only allows him to see her as a different person, he inquires if she knows the short girl, so she lies that the girl had dropped out of school, and when he asks for the short girl's name, she makes up a lie, saying that the girl's name is Miju. She wonders why he's asking, so he reveals that although the girl is short and average looking, she's a good person. She gets annoyed hearing him compliment her ugly self, so she storms off. Meanwhile, Sejin prepares to participate in a fashion competition as a designer. His friend urges him to find the perfect model for their dress, so he decides to ask Nanhee to become his model, since she's the most beautiful woman in his eyes. That day, he suddenly shows up at her house, and as soon as she sees him, she begs her mother to let her wear the ring. The mother initially hesitates, but eventually gives in to her request. So, Nanhee wears the ring, and as soon as he sees her, he becomes bewitched and agrees to join a Meiju making class hosted by her father in order to get closer to her. After spending some time with him, she leaves to return the ring to her mother. As she changes into a new cloth, he comes out of nowhere and sees her without the ring, which allows him to see her real face. But he doesn't suspect anything, since he believes that his crush and the average-looking girl in front of him are two different people. He asks the average girl for her number, so she gives him her mother's number since he already has her real number. That night, as she tells her mother never to ever pick up his call, she receives a text from him on her phone asking for a meetup. So, the next day, she meets up with him while wearing the ring, making him see her as the girl of his dreams. He suddenly stands up and introduces her to the entire class as his model for the fashion competition. The entire class is shocked to hear this since they all see Nanhee as an average-looking short girl. Nanhee is also shocked and drags him out for a talk. She rejects the offer to become his model, but he insists that her beauty is perfect for the job. He reveals that after seeing her in Namsan Park, he got the inspiration to design his clothes. She's shocked to hear this, but insists on rejecting his offer. As she walks away, she realizes that she had never met him in a park, which means he had seen someone else whom he fell in love with. So, the ring cast a spell on him to make him view her as the girl of his dreams. As she thinks about this, her high school friend suddenly walks up to her. This person turns out to be Miju, the girl he had actually seen in the park, and the real person whom he fell in love with. Miju is happy to meet Nanhee and asks about her red book, so Nanhee reveals that the book is at home. When she inquires about the book, Miju tells her that the book is special since it makes her meet someone she likes. She recalls meeting Sejin at Namhan Park and how he had given her his phone number. Meanwhile, Nanhee tells her mother that Sejin may be seeing her as someone else. She realizes that each time she wears the ring, he'll no longer see her face, but will see her as the love of his life. Later the next day, as she talks to her mother, Sejin suddenly calls the mother's line, which means he wanted to speak to the real her. She answers the call, so he invites her for a meal. She goes without wearing the ring, so he treats her to an expensive meal and even takes her to see the movies in order to get information from her on how to convince her magical self to accept becoming his model. He doesn't realize that they're the same person, so she gives him tips on how to convince her other self. She advises him to buy a strawberry-scented perfume, so the next day, He meets her wearing the ring and asks her out on a date. After the date, he gives her the perfume and leaves. While watching him walk away, she comments on how the ring makes it easier for an ugly girl like her to have a chance to date him. The next day, he invites her to take her measurements, but notices that her waistline is bigger than what the magic shows him. When he inquires, she lies that she had eaten a lot of breakfast, which made her bloated. Then, he measures her bust line and finds it perfect, so they end up sharing a kiss. Later that day, she receives a call from her best friend, Miju, who invites her to a bar and tries to humiliate her in the presence of her rich friend. But Nanhai refuses to act as their waitress and angrily storms off. It begins to rain, so she calls Sejin, who immediately rushes to her location, using a pizza box as an umbrella. As they walk home, he proposes they take a picture. She immediately becomes anxious, thinking that the magic will wear off when her real face appears in the photos. But to her surprise, the magic ring makes him still see her as someone else in the picture. He posts the photos as his profile picture on his social media, making the entire university erupt. Everyone begins to wonder what he sees in an average-looking girl like Nanhee. Unknown to them, each time he looks at Nanhee, he sees someone else. Later that day, Nanhee enrolls in the department's fashion competition in order to also stand the chance to win the free trip to Paris. The next day, while on a shopping date with Sejin, he tells her how beautiful she is. So she gets curious and asks him to draw a hand sketch photo of how he sees her. As soon as he finishes drawing, she takes a look at it and realizes that the girl of his dreams is actually her best friend, which means the person he sees while looking at her is actually her best friend. So, the next day, she meets him while wearing the ring and asks if he would have dated her if she weren't beautiful. He truthfully responds that he's dating her because she's beautiful. Upon hearing this, she tries to leave, so he grabs her hands to stop her, causing both of them to fall into a nearby pool. As she tries to swim out, the ring slips out of her hands, causing him to see her real face for a split second. But before he can make sense of what's happening, she quickly swims out, abandoning the ring at the bottom of the pool. Fortunately, she finds her best friend and begs him to find the ring for her, so he dives into the huge pool in search of it. Meanwhile, Sejin sees the real girl of his dreams in a taxi, so he stalks her. Coincidentally, Miju goes to Nanhee's house to apologize to her. He follows her home and assumes she's the one he's dating, so he yells at her, asking why she had left him in the pool. At this moment, Nanhee arrives home without the rings and sees Sejin already talking to Miju, so she turns off the light and grabs Miju. While outside, she confesses everything to her friend and begs the girl to pretend to date him until she finds the ring in order not to blow her cover. The friend agrees to this, but points out that she might fall in love with him while acting like his pretend girlfriend. Then, she goes to meet him, but he doesn't realize that she's the real girl of his dreams. Nanhee sees them walking away together and gets teary-eyed. So, from that day, Sejin begins to go out on dates with Miju, not realizing anything. However, he notices a slight difference and confesses that she seems strange. Meanwhile, the male best friend finds the magic ring and returns it to her, making her jump in happiness. The next day, she decides to wear the ring and go on a last date with Sejin before finally breaking up with him. She puts effort into her makeup and puts on the ring to prepare to see him. When he meets her, the magic ring causes him to see her as the girl of his dreams. However, he immediately smells her perfume and points out that he misses it. They go on a bike date, and afterward, she takes him shopping, where she gives him a gift to give to his mother, who is returning to the country after 7 years. He tells her to try on the dress in order to see how it would look on his mother. Unknown to them, Miju is also at the same shopping center. She sees the same dress and decides to try it on. As she steps out of the dressing room, Nanhee comes out at the same time, causing Sejin to see two of them. He becomes instantly confused and wonders why he's seeing two girls of his dreams. Seeing this, Miju gets angry and forcefully pulls out the rings from Nanhee's finger in order to expose her. As soon as the ring is removed, the magic fades from his eyes, and he's able to see Nanhee's real face. Left with no choice, she comes out and confesses the truth to him about how she had used the rings to bewitch and make him see her as the girl of his dreams. Although she pleads for forgiveness, he refuses to forgive her and angrily storms off. She begins a part-time job as a bartender wearing costumes. There, she sees him having a drink with Miju. the real girl of his dreams. While walking past, she overhears him asking Miju to be his model for the fashion show. The next day, he sees her talking to a new man and assumes that she had used the ring to bewitch him. He confronts her about it, but realizes she is no longer wearing the ring. When she tries to leave, he stops her and gives her a hug to check if his heart beats for her. Upon feeling nothing, he deletes his number from her phone and breaks off things with her. Then, he goes to meet Miju and begs her to be his model for the fashion competition. At the same time, Nanhee begs her male best friend to be her model for the competition. Later that day, as Sejin takes Miju's body measurements, he recalls the time he had kissed Nanhee while taking her measurements. So he tries to repeat the moment, but stops midway. Seeing this, Miju seizes the opportunity to kiss him. Some days later, as Sejin tries his designs on Miju, he receives a text from his mother, telling him that she has changed her mind about returning to the country. He gets annoyed at this and shows his anger in front of Miju. That night, as they drink together, Miju mocks him for getting depressed because of his mother. As she leaves the drinking bar, she sees Nanhee working part-time and tells her about his depression. So, she goes to meet him while wearing the costume in order to console him. He ends up crying in her arms, but after a while, he perceives her familiar perfume and realizes it's her, so he leaves. Days later, during the rehearsals for the fashion competition, Miju experiences intense anxiety while walking down the runway as Sejin's model. She ends up collapsing on stage, and as she's rushed to the hospital, she points towards her male best friend and begs him to escort her to the hospital. With her best friend gone, Nanhee has no one to act as her model for the competition, so Sejin volunteers to model for her. He walks down the runway with her designs, stunning the judges. After his turn, she tries to drag him to the hospital to get Miju to model for him, but he stops her and begs her to model his designs for him, since he got inspiration for the dress while dating her. She initially hesitates, but ends up agreeing since they have no other choice. She gets on the runway with his designs, shocking the entire audience since she's average-looking and doesn't fit a model's criteria. As the audience murmurs about this, Sejin encourages her from the side so she regains her confidence and strides with a shocking aura. Minutes later, the judges announce the winner, but neither she nor Sejin wins the competition. A few days later, as Nanhee's parents hold an exhibition for the Meiju class, she finds her mother's ring on the floor and realizes that her mother doesn't need the rings to bewitch her father. When she confronts her parents about this, the mother confesses that she doesn't need the ring since her handsome husband actually likes her appearance. As they hold the exhibition, Sejin suddenly shows up. Outside, he gives her a new ring and asks her to become his girlfriend. He reveals that he had never dated a girl for more than a month, but she was the first, which made him realize that he loved her. After a few days of dating, he tells her to throw the magic ring since she no longer needs it. Before throwing it away, she decides to wear it for the last time to see what the magic will show him. When he wears it on her finger, her appearance doesn't change, which means she is now the girl of his dreams. He tells her how beautiful she is, so they share a lovely kiss together.